Hello everyone, watch this review here with a look at Rita Repulsa from Bandai's Power Rangers Samurai line. She, of course, actually being a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers villain, or villainess. Now, to start this off, I should basically clarify one thing. There are two Bandais, Bandai of Japan, who puts out this absolutely great stuff, top-notch, really awesome things. You know, they're the ones that do the SH Figuarts line, the D-Arts line, from which the Mega Man stuff's coming from these days, and so forth. And then you have Bandai of America, who does absolute crap. Granted, you know, their 8-inch Thundercats figures were pretty cool, but in general, they sort of have a really cheap mentality to them where a lot of the stuff they produce isn't really collectible. It's more just geared strictly for children, including some of the Power Rangers figures where they didn't bother painting any detail on the back. Again, I guess, you know, if they feel it's for kids, they might cut corners, but I don't know, it strikes me as being a little bit unacceptable. I mean, you can sort of bring some level of quality to everything. And for the price point, you know, these are kind of overpriced at this point, which actually sounds funny to say, but so they retail for about the same price as Marvel Universe figures these days for the most part, despite the fact that, you know, the quality is nowhere near that. But hold on a second and we'll get out what may be arguably the worst figure of 2011 or 2012. Whatever year she came out in, she's probably the worst. But hold on. I've always been a fan of Rita Repulsa, as weird as that may sound. You know, some people who watched the show back then might get it, some people who didn't or, you know, weren't as into it might not. But there's something just really fun about the character. You know, she was always really over the top. You know, she'd just shout for simple commands. It's like, make me a monster. Instead of just saying, make me a monster, she'd shout it like the top of her lungs. But, you know, there's just also something really fun when the character was irritated by her underlings. I mean, granted, you know, the main villain in all these stories is always paired with, like, incompetent henchmen, and, you know, the henchman's purpose is to be kind of funny, and then, you know, you're supposed to laugh because the main villain just gets really annoyed. And I think she pulled it off a bit better than, say, Lord Zed and so forth, although I also really enjoyed Lord Zed. So, you know, it was very disappointing as a child when... Was I a child at the point? Yes, I was still a child at the point that this show came out. When, you know, she never got a figure in the original line, nor the follow-up line, because, you know, Rita Repulsa suffers from the unfortunate condition of being a female character, and female characters so often are maligned in, you know, these toy lines designed more for boys than girls, which doesn't really make much sense considering she was the main villain, whereas everybody else from that seemed to get a figure. Goldar got several figures. Squat and Babu both got several figures. Finster, whose only purpose was to make her monsters, got at least 2 figures that I'm aware of. He got a 8-inch one. I think he got one of the ones in the smaller lines, but Rita never got anything as far as I'm aware. I mean, definitely not a full-size one. She might have had something in Micro Machines, but I don't even think that. So, it's weird, it's stupid, it's, you know, really sucks, but on some levels, even though this figure is kind of crappy, I'm just happy that Bandai released Rita Repulsa after all this time. Hopefully Bandai of Japan will someday release a Rita Repulsa as well. You know, they are doing some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers characters. They have the Red Ranger and Green Ranger up for pre-order right now. So, though I think they'll probably do Goldar next, and Rita will be so far down the line out of consideration that it's not even funny. Now, seriously though, this isn't... Well, it probably wouldn't be an absolutely terrible figure if not for a handful of things. First up, this face is just horrendous. Part of that comes down to the paint job, where she just has these 2 little button eyes, then these really weird eyebrows. What were they thinking? And her whole face kind of looks like a potato for some reason. It's just really flat. I mean, I've seen some customs where they gave her proper eyes and stuff and just smoothed out the, I guess, eyebrows, and, you know, it looks a lot better. I mean, most of the sculpt itself is decent. Unfortunately, her, I guess, bra here, you know, she's channeling some really crazy Madonna. is way too, I guess, perky or whatever. I think like there's more roundness or more of a shape to it. Plus, I thought the character was a lot more squat. Like, this looks like a really tall character as opposed to Rita, who I thought was just more short, a lot more out. And then, of course, for the third thing, her fingers and slash hands look really weird, but that's something that I've noticed Bandai tends to do a lot on their cheaper stuff. On the other sculpting, pretty cool. For instance, her staff here got a really decent sculpt job, so I figured if nothing else, I definitely wanted the staff, even if I at some point customize this figure or customize something else into a figure at some point. I'd probably just use the staff. Of course, I probably will never bother getting around to it because I'm just, I don't know, creatively lazy when it comes to that. At any rate, Rita Repulsa doesn't have a tremendous amount of articulation, but I suppose she probably wouldn't need much anyway. She has head rotation, although they'll move this little frilled thing, which snaps into the back. It's in the bottom of the pack. She's not actually displayed with it on. Also, when you see her in pack, her arms are out like this, which looks terrible. And without this, it looks a lot worse than, when the arms are out in front. Which kind of looks, a bit more passable. She has ball-jointed shoulders. It's got exposed pins there because sometimes Bandai is just lazy like that. Bandai of America, mind you, not Bandai of Japan. And then we have rotation at the elbow slash, I guess, above the elbow. And then nothing else as far as I can tell. She does have sculpted legs. There's a updress shot for all you perps out there. I'm not sure why they did this though, considering that the figure doesn't really need that to stand, and I don't even think the feet touch the ground, so it's just extra sculpting for no good reason. But hey, I guess it's nice. It's, to some extent, they are sort of putting a little quality that they might not need it to. But I really wish their quality and efforts had been directed elsewhere. Her little headdress things here is pretty cool. It's got this nice silvery paint wash to it. And I never really noticed this cape or whatever in the show, but decent quality. Then of course the actual design and stuff's the little hearts and whatever that stuff is. The trim on the dress is pretty neat. Although I wish that they wouldn't have it be so glossy. Yeah. That's sort of a problem with a lot of the stuff they do in these lines. At any rate, Rita Repulsa is a pretty terrible figure. Maybe not the worst thing that came out in either of those years, but it's kind of bad. At the same time, so Rita Repulsa, we're actually getting a recent Rita Repulsa at retail. I mean, how cool is that? It does make up for, just some questionable lapses in quality. At any rate, this has been a look at Rita Repulsa from Bandai of America's Power Rangers Samurai line. Might still be able to find this at retail, otherwise just go on Amazon. I think Amazon has it for like $4 or $5, which is a lot cheaper than you would find at retail anyway. Until next time, folks.